Welcome to the Ancient Health Podcast, where East meets West. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Motley, and today I have one of my close friends, a mentor of mine, Dr. Howard Cohn of the Cohn Health Institute. And Doc, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it so much.
Well, thanks for having me. I love what you're doing. So many people give me such great feedback. They go, "Oh my God, I just saw Dr. Motley. I saw him on your summit," and then I started following him. And the amount of things that you share with people that really empower them to make their lives better at home and make them feel like they can do things and celebrate what their body can do. It's been awesome to watch. So appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much. And guys, all of you out there listening, we were just chatting before we jumped on here, and Dr. Howie, he basically made the Biostacking Summit. And if you've been watching alternative health medicine, you have seen his work, and we're going to talk about it. And I'm just saying, for a preview, Dr. Cohn has created literally a conglomerate of individuals that give you answers for different types of questions in the alternative health field. Because he and I were just discussing, like, we go to certain conferences and you'll see all these really crazy cool devices that you go, I cannot believe they make something for that. Like, how can you help your lymph detoxify? And you go, there's a machine over there that spins you and does stuff. And we just don't know about it. And that's what the beauty of the Biostacking Summit. So, Doug, first, we always wanted to ask you, I want to know more about you. You've been in practice for like over 30 years. You have an incredible institute. We know Dr. Charlie, we know Dr. Calvin. You've produced, I'm not saying you like produce people, but you had these individuals come through you helped like show them the way of kinesiology. Can you tell us more about yourself and your vision and how you came across doing the biostacking?
Well, it's been an evolution. As you know, the longer you do this, the longer you realize that it takes a village. It takes a village of people, activities. And once there was a time when we were all full of piss and vinegar and we were doing seminars every weekend, which we still are crazily. And we were just absorbing and putting out. It was just so fascinating to treat people. And then, things have happened in our world through our air, our water, our food, our, let's say, frequencies have been disrupted through electromagnetic noise and pollution and things like that, where now just one person is just not enough to overcome and to do what is the most important thing really at the end of the day, which is to strengthen the host. Meaning like we're drowning out there with the amount of things that affect us, chronic low-level stress. People have a whole new world with social media where they can feel bad about themselves. If they're comparing themselves to what the illusion is that's happening for others, they don't know if what they're seeing or hearing is real. The CGI. I mean, it's really an interesting time. So in order to get from point A to point B with our health, it takes a village. And, when I started, like, when it's just us. And now, at the Cohn Health Institute, we have, I think, 16 practitioners that are all biostackers inside themselves. So, I mean, we tell people when they come here, they're going to get better whether they like it or not, which means if I can't help them, one of our practitioners can, or one of these amazing modalities that we've accumulated over the years. And it's not just doing a lot of things, it's doing the right thing in the right order. And then we tell them, I go, hey, if we can't help you, we're spidered out in 1,000 clinics and practitioners. You're one of them around the globe where we know people that do some next level things and have put together or biostack different modalities, treatments, thought philosophies, and processes to realize how to unwind this tangled web that affects human health these days. And so, it gives people a breath of fresh air. And now being able to do the summit, it actually, listen, the world did not need one more podcast, one more summit, but what they needed is to help them get their time back. And how they do it is having all this stuff in one spot. Not people just dumping information so they can sell the next supplement or widget, but people that are out there doing it, loving it still, and excited about sharing it without any need for gain other than sharing it because they know what you give comes back tenfold.
And I am so thankful for that, because I think that in the area of health, Doc, it's the idea of gratitude, the idea of perpetuating gratitude, where you know as well as I do that the healthcare system has created many individuals who are angry and hurt and they're resentful. And when they come to you, they come to your clinic, they probably will tell you, doc, they'd be like, hey, doc, you're the last person on my list. I can't go anywhere else. I'm tired. I feel tired. And you help save lives. So when you have this conglomerate, when people come and listen to the Biostacking Summit, they get like it's different individuals that can go in different ways. Have you found that when people have come that there's more stories out there of individuals who are just like, this changed my world?
Absolutely. I think the summit also gives you a chance to get a flavor of these people, their thought process, how they go about figuring things out, and to see if what you're hearing come out of their mouth resonates for you.
Wow.
Because they're not like you are on our, thank you for doing it, on our biostacking 1.0, which when they become a VIP member, they can see 1.0, 2.0, they can see you, Charlie, Nicole, Calvin, all the Zagkoi, all the not just brilliant people, but it's entertaining as well. We try to make it entertaining because
Yeah.
if it's not fun, it's a climb. And these people been through it. And one of the things that I like to do, is I know you do too, is to make them laugh. So because it's a heavy load what some people have to go through when people have Lyme, or they have mold, or they have all these different traumas that have happened to the body physically, or they've had horrific upbringings and they've stuffed it for decades, and they're wondering,
Mm-hmm.
why and how. And I've done a lot of things. And so, people come in, they think they've done everything. It's not accurate. They've done a lot of things that maybe some of the things moved them forward, but maybe have not got them there. And as we know, it's a journey. And the most important thing for me is to make sure that what we're doing is building equity in their body, which is they're actually getting better. And we really need a measure of if these people are getting better. And we have multiple different tracking systems outside just
Mm.
their labs, because at the end of the day, we have all this beautiful work in functional medicine, but that latter part of that word is still medicine. And as you know, coming from thousands of years of traditional Chinese medicine, that it's different in that world, because medicine was different thousands of years ago. The
Mm-hmm.
word
Mm-hmm.
has been corrupted and hijacked, where it used to be about strengthening your body and matching you to what's going on with the seasons, and having different cleansing times and strengthening times. And, the traditional Chinese, doctors were also bone setters. So they're way before chiropractors, bones were being moved, and it was just part of the thing. And then there was all different things where the different emotions and different meridians were identified. So there was an emotional component that took place in a time where, emotions were more simple than they are
Mm-hmm.
today, and less complex, and less interference was run. And so, I mean, these are all vital things that we want to help people rediscover, just like with your Ancient Health podcast. I mean, it's really what it's about, is like, what did we used to do that never stopped working, but we
Yes.
have moved away from?
This is like, Doc, I think you put it really beautifully when they say when people can listen to the Pile Stacking Summit, it's fun. And one of the things I love about your information and about the interviews is that when you say they're fun, they take the fear out of it. Because I think that one of the, like, when we talk about Dr. Zykoi, that guy, we talk about, people love this guy. Like, they will talk about him and they think he's fun. He'll shoot you straight. But individuals want information where there's different viewpoints. There's fear taken out of it, but there's also honesty. And I think that when anybody out there is listening, I want you to know that Dr. Howard always tries to find honest conversations. So that's why I recommend it. For instance, I've been looking heavily for a home water filtration system. And this is not trying to be light about it, but there are people on your summit that will say talk about water, and some people will think that that information is like, oh, who talks about water? No, it's very important. So you can go to the summit and there's no judgment, there's no fear. I can find out great information. So when you I want to know this, like when you started to this first part, like what hit your head when you're like, I'm going to put it together? Was it like a theophany? Like somehow you just were like, one day you were like, I'm going to put this summit together. Like, did you see the need for it? Like, what hit your brain when you started it?
Well, I did, because I mean, we're all so busy. We're all so blessed to have these robust, thriving practices, whether they're virtual or in person, or virtual and in person. And a lot of people won't know about a Dr. Motley, a Dr. Zagkoi, a Dr. Fagenholz. They're not going to know about them. Um, if they, because they can't see them because they have a waiting list a mile long. So they might
Yeah.
hear them talking, but they're not going to experience all the other cool things that had them develop all the things they now know how to talk about and say. So that was a big thing. The other thing, too, which evolved is that we have really great sponsors of the summit. And it was never even an intention in the beginning. I'm like, oh, we should probably have sponsors, you know? And the best part about that is I didn't seek sponsors, sponsors sought us. And the reason being is because one of the things I wanted to make sure that we did that I see with a lot of other summits and things, they're just whoever's going to sponsor the summit, they're taking their money and they're happy to have it. We've actually said no to almost as many sponsors that we have because not because we don't like these people, but we don't use the brands or it doesn't resonate
Yep.
or we've
Yep.
seen some things that are real, they don't fit the conversation or the culture. And
That's
so
good.
we go to our speakers and go, what are brands that you love? What are, like Verbita or Supreme Nutrition or
Hmm.
Standard Process? I mean, these are things that all, if not most, if not all, the practitioners on the summit have used one or more of these products, and they've used them to help be the difference maker in the care they're providing for people. So whether it's a fringe red light, a trifecta lip red light bed, or it's like CES Ultra or a Resimax. I mean, these are in the offices, they're in the on the podcast, they're on the Olympic fields that these practitioners are doing. And we're really blessed for these brands to also see the value of the summit as these are the frontline doctors for them that Charlie always says are in the trenches making it happen and being a big part of the success. I mean, we talk about on the summit, you and I have talked about it. I mean, yeah, we're great doctors, but we're much better with these tools and equipment. I mean, if you're a great martial artist, but you also have a sword and a shield and different types of equipment, if you will, a staff, you can actually be more effective.
I mean, I think the individuals now that are listening to that, we want you guys out there listening to hear what Dr. Cohn's saying, because the one thing that we can touch on, Doc, is that I really like about your work is that individuals, when you go to the summit, you'll learn about really truly about chiropractic or kinesiology. You can learn about bone structure, bone alignment, functional medicine, but you get every part of it. You have individuals that are like, okay, this is for emotions. This is a person who deals heavily with it. And one of the things me and my producer were talking about, we were talking about like emotions. You're like a master NET practitioner. And I'm serious. There's going to be people out there that go, could I go to the Biostacking Summit and learn something about how to help my emotions heal? Could you touch a little bit about that? Because I'm telling you, on the podcast, people are going to be like, I'm going to the summit because you help me process emotions. Can you talk about that, your NET experience, like what you do with emotions?
Sure. It's one of those things you don't know until you find out you didn't know it. I mean, I think people have an awareness that their emotions are running the show, and their unconscious mind is running the show. But a lot of people, in the end of the day, end up giving it lip service and they don't address it. My foundation is in applied kinesiology. And in applied kinesiology, like many cultures, they have this thing called a triad of health. Different people have different names for it. There's your physical health, your physical neurological health, there's your biochemical nutritional health, and there's your mental emotional health. So even in applied kinesiology, the smallest or weakest, it wasn't an equal triangle, even though it was drawn that way. It was the most neglected because it was so easy if you're a chiropractor to get lost in physical health. It's so easy if you're an
Mm,
acupuncturist to get lost in also physical body needles and things. But then we saw this foundation where so many people needed now because of the pollution of our world, the
mm,
biochemistry, and it swung way there. However, chronic low level stress, whether it's emotional, physical, or chemical, is really the thing that drains the soul of the human over time. And it's
mm,
insidious. And if there's a way that you can modulate this in somebody, so for 30 years, up until the crazy COVID times, we did a weekly health class. Dr. Charlie did it, Dr. Nicole did it, Dr. Calvin did it. A lot of the people that have come out of the Cohn Health Institute were also part of giving that health class. And so these people, what we would do is it was different than any class anyone's seen. There wasn't a data dump. It was all 3 minutes of me talking, followed by nothing but Q&A and demos. Classes could last 2 to 3 hours
Woo!
because people were so jacked about being there. And it was always, almost every night was standing room only. We did it every week for really 30 years. And it started with a physical, people would ask questions, and then they would look around the room and they go, oh my God, you can help this, you can help that. And we would take the three most dramatic cases, and then we would show on the spot that not only can we find out what happened, where it's, what's causing it, what to do about it, but we would be able to affect a change. So in the
Wow.
beginning, it was applied
Wow.
kinesiology, and then as we met Dr. George Gonzalez in quantum neurology, that became the part of the first structural demo. And then there was a biochemical nutritional demo where we'd use different vials from like the Leibowitz world and other worlds like that, and CRA, and we'd be able to find out what would modulate something, and you could pinpoint a supplement or an intervention that could change somebody on the spot. But nothing was ever as dramatic as the closing example, which was the NET example, which was Fearless's neuro-emotional technique. And so
Wow.
affectionately, although it has nothing to do with therapy, psychotherapy, psychiatry, it's more that Pavlovian conditioned response coupled with 5 to 6,000 years of Chinese medicine and the association of different meridians with different organs. You were able to actually trace out an emotional event that's being triggered in somebody's life and trace it out to what happened when they were 2 or 5 or 12 that's making them have the symptoms and problems they're having today. And when
Wow.
people get it done, they affectionately say it's like 6 months of therapy in a minute because it's that dramatic. So you would have people limp in and walk out. After that demo, you would have people with like migraines they had for, 48 hours vanish on the spot. You would have people that literally were bloated and distended and see their stomach, go down before your eyes. I mean, you name it. The power of the body to heal from the inside out without necessarily always give more supplement, more this, more treatment, more stuff. But the actual beauty of letting go of something and having it facilitated and knowing that your body did it and it was really just allowing it to happen. And it's not someone using their conscious wisdom to tell you what they think is going on in your life after knowing you for 3 minutes, but allowing you to awaken to what's really going on for you, have that epiphany and let it go. It is
Wow.
something you must see demoed.
Wow. It is, Doc. And I think that when individuals out there listening and seeing how somebody could take a trauma and how you can relate it to the Chinese medicine world, how you can relate it to your spine, and how you can release it, it has made such big changes. I remember the first time, Doc, that I learned about NET and I saw Scotty Walker teach it in St. Louis, Missouri, man. And he, you want to hear my story? This is what happened, Doc. He goes, people laughing because people think I'm an open book. I'm not an open book. I will tell you anything you want to know, but I'm not going to like get all emotional on you. But when he got up there, Doc, he was like, he put his beret on, and this person went up there and they're like, oh, yeah, I'll get treated. And he started doing muscle testing and checking the acupuncture meridian points and correlating to what he was saying. And he found out what was this lady's trauma, like at 3 years of age. And she just started, like, I mean, you could tell she just bawled, just came down. And he found it out. And to him, it was just like, I've done it for so long. I know how to do this. And they're like, do you want to volunteer? And I was like, nope. I'm good. I'm just stay right here. But um, all that to say, though, the power of it. And so people can get emotional clearing, but I want to touch this too. It's like it's so powerful, it's so profound. But also, I get questions about this, about the Biostacking Summit. I do get it in my feed about your stomach with NET. What about the QNRT? Like you were talking about quantum neurology.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you can have the NET with the emotions. What does the QNRT do to
Well,
people?
the QNRT is a whole new game, and we're looking as well to get more and more of that exposed through the summit because people are just awakening to it. Like even before NET, I don't know if NET was the original. There are all kinds of different interventions, if you will, and there are so many that have sprung out of it. But QNRT goes to places that some people believe that NET does not go to. I know one
Uh,
of our speakers, Dr. Noah Moose, is a big proponent of QNRT. And I unfortunately personally have not met although I've seen and watched and had been treated by our good friend Jen Bulk in Georgia. who really was one of actually the first person to expose me to that work. But I think it's the next thing that's coming to the summit. We do, in our summit that's coming up, 3.0, do have Dr. Scott Walker scheduled to be interviewed. Now, he is a tough one to pin down. We got them all scheduled. We got them all scheduled, but we have the word or the promise that he said he was going to do it. So that is going to be an iconic, forever interview. But
It's gonna be
again,
blast.
in the emotional world, like you're saying with QRT, you know, patients and their needs push the envelope for doctors to do more, be more, and have more for their patients and clients. And I think
Mhm.
QNRT is one of those things that has again answered that calling, and yet be like another arrow in the quill or weapon in the arsenal that has people break through in areas that nothing else has helped them break through.
I mean, it really has. I see you as a person who has become seriously a somebody who's brought a lot of people together, like a Moses. And I mean, I'm serious. Maybe I should just call you that, Doc. I mean, you're Moses. And me and Doc have talked about bringing in Dr. Zodkoy and seriously doing like we got to meet up and do like a whiskey podcast, which would be hilarious. Um, with that, Doc, I know like all of this information is coming out there. More people are wanting it. Are you finding that there's a big thirst for it? I mean, have you seen like high, rises in even in your Instagram feed and stuff like people like, I need this kind of info because it's been so neglected?
I mean, absolutely. And again, it's people sifting through to see what's real and what's not, what's just
Mm,
information overload. I mean, there's a lot of great content that other platforms are putting out, and at some point it's overwhelming.
yeah.
My experience of doing a health class every week is that it has to have all the elements. I mean, there's a famous sports coach that had this saying when speaking and presenting and being with a person, or in his case an athlete, but it's no different with a patient, which is to, he used to say, make them laugh, make them cry, make them think. And those are those three things, in my opinion, have to happen for the experience to be memorable. Like, we don't
Oh,
remember facts. We will always remember bedtime stories, but we will never remember any fact that anyone told us when we were little. And those facts change, but the stories remain the same. And the story is how cultures have transferred information throughout thousands of years.
Oh, and I think that's one of the best ways you put it, Doc, is that people always relate to stories. And I think that anybody that watches the Biostacking Summit, or watches Dr. Charlie's, or watches Dr. Noah's, or anything, is that you start to see stories, and then individuals are like, what people will come to, like some of my feed, they're like, there's a doc, you, that understands, and you've been through it. And this is one part I want to talk about. You understand people's stories,
Mhm.
and this is really important for people out there. Is you've seen a lot, you've seen a lot, and you know how people hurt. Could you touch a bit on that? I know that's a vague question, but Doc, I mean, there's so many things that have come to you in your years and your history, and people want to know that you understand. So, could you tell us a little bit about like all the years and like how things have come to you, and it's just sort of like accumulating? You're like, you've helped so many people. I know it's very vague, but can you just touch a bit about
Yeah,
how
no,
you see
absolutely. I mean,
it?
I tell you, when I was a student, I got one of the best pieces of advice from my the clinician at the time, who was still another student. And he saw that, I was kind of a little savant of applied kinesiology, NET, and all these different TBM and a couple of others as a student. So,
Mm.
where most people learn these things off they graduate, I was on my third round of like the 100-hour course of applied kinesiology, president of club. And, there were clinicians coming to see me as a student to get treated. And he had a great piece of advice. He says, he told me, he goes, here's what's going to happen. He said, you're going to see a lot of miracles happen. And the worst thing that could ever happen to you is that you get used to seeing them.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like a
Wow.
dagger. He goes, you must, if you remember one thing, which was such wisdom for a guy who was still a student, wasn't graduated yet.
Yeah.
And he says, I'll never forget. He's telling me, remember to celebrate with your patients these wins that happen for them,
Wow.
because they are few and far between, and they don't expect them like you expect them. And a lot of times, especially, if you've done, I see it because I've interviewed some people where, if they've done 1,000 interviews, the hardest thing for them is to be on there like it's their first interview, but it has to be. You can never lose the excitement and wonder and joy and blessing it is, because there's no better feeling you'll ever have in your life than someone else's life being made better because you have an influence on it. We
Wow.
do that every day, whether it's a needle you stuck in somebody, an herb you gave them, a word of advice that put them over the edge so that they would go see somebody or do something or take an action or run a test or whatever. It is the most important thing. In my profession, on the other side of the same coin, which I would love to make a reminder to practitioners, because people, there's such, somewhere between imposter syndrome where people are like, I don't know enough, and they seem like they know everything, and I listen to them, and I'll never be able to do that membership or do like, BJ Palmer, who there would be no, he's the son of the founder of chiropractic. There would be no chiropractic today, which is still the largest drug healing art in the world, but there would be no chiropractic today if it wasn't for this guy. And this guy had a lot of great pieces of advice. But one that he had, which I see fading away, which I love to remind people, which is he said, take no credit, take no blame.
Ah.
And he goes, if you are going to go barking on your social media, your Instagram, your lecture, your talk, your whatever, that you're helping all these people with XYZ problems, you better talk about the ones you didn't help, because they're out there too. We
Oh.
always want to put our testimonials out, but it's a true clinician that's going to talk about the person they couldn't help and how it drives them. And it's a thing, man. It is a thing. And that goes both ways too, because you have these people, these doctors that beat the piss out of themselves because they're helping like 90 something percent of their patients, but they go home at night and they beat themselves up for the one person they couldn't figure out how to get them out of pain, or how to get their whatever to stop, hurting or doing the thing it's doing, or how to change that lab value, when they're ignoring the 90 something percent that really need to celebrate with them. So it is a dance. That's why they call it a science, art, and a philosophy. I mean, you got to know your why, and you got to be on the mission. If it's not a calling, it's work, and people know. And the
Wow.
science is, you
Wow.
got to know what it is you're doing. Because it's big. And the philosophy is, you got to know why. You got to know why it needs to be done. Otherwise, it's hard, man, as I'm preaching to the choir.
No, it's hitting my heart, Doc. I'm serious. Like when you say you got to know your why, I think that the people out there that come into practitioners, that they want the practitioner that we have to know the why. We want to know the why. Sometimes, if you out there listening, when you go to conferences and you find these conferences like Dr. Howard goes to, and you'll see some of the same individuals learning and learning and learning and learning and learning, and you go, heavens, why does then I'm saying they're here all the time. They're like, well, you're here all the time too. Like you go and you'll reevaluate a conference because you want to master something. And those just brought aha moments to me. It's like there comes a point, like I would want a practitioner that did learn, but that was so inquisitive and so open to the possibilities that they went, there's a story involved, and I'm going to try to find it out about you. And I love when you said, take no credit, take no blame. Like, look, I'm here to help. I'm here for a journey. I'm right there with you, Doc. You can tell that the people that I have seen that have had the best successes are the people who do beat themselves up the most, and they're the docs that do it. And you go, got to give yourself a little credit. You got to pat yourself. You get on the back. You got to love yourself a little bit. And my dad used to tell me, he's a drill sergeant. My dad, about being cocky. My dad used to always say, he goes, if you have to run for office, you never had it. And so he would tell me that. So he was like, you bet you don't talk about yourself. But there comes a point where you want a practitioner from the Biostacking Summit has confidence, but also knows that they're open and willing enough to learn enough to go with it. So, Doc, I didn't want to go on the rabbit trail because it wasn't. That was beautiful. Like when you say that to me, it's like we got to keep expecting miracles. And people out there, we got to keep expecting miracles. Where do you see the Biostacking Summit go? Like, where do you think? I know it's just like you just have a few, but you're just growing like crazy. Where do you want it to go? Where do you see it? Sky's the limit. Where do you go?
Yeah, I think it's a living, breathing organism, and I think the community and the culture of that community is really going to help shape it. We try and listen to what people want. The first one at 1.0, I go, I'm going to get 12 people I know are going to crush it because I know they're crushing it, and I love them, and I go to see them to get treated, and I've just had fun and wanted to share my friends, and they wanted to know some of these people that are those 1,000 offices that they hear about all the time. Who are these people? Because even if I wanted to see them, they have such long waiting lists, or they're maybe cost prohibitive sometimes for certain people, that they weren't going to do it. And then 2.0 became, what? There's some really maverick dentists out there. There's some really maverick medical doctors out there that have more of a holistic philosophy than most chiropractors, acupuncturists, and, people have holistic something on their card that I know, and we were able to have those on 2.0.
Wow.
And 3.0 is based on the feedback we got that there are health experts out there that are crushing it either through YouTube, Instagram, their offices, their clinics, their wellness centers, but they're not actual official doctors, but they are so well studied that they know more than most doctors that I know. And we have a lot of them on 3.0, plus, some people that are just either on the celebrity world icons or, technique founders now with Dr. Walker. So we 3.0 is definitely a mix it up kind of thing. We got new, fresh sponsors of things that I've heard about for a while, but it did take these sponsors time to see that the Biostacking Summit wasn't just going to be a one or two off, but it's going to go and grow.
Oh, it's going to keep growing, Doc. I mean, I'm not kidding. I'm so impressed tonight. I don't say that lightly. And I think everybody out there, I want you guys to please join it. I want you guys to go find out about it. We have a special offer, a special deal through Dr. Cohn's generosity. I think it's Summit 36. I'm sorry, my producer told me. I'm
I
going
think
to
it's
have it.
Biostack 36, and that's the code they want to use, your listeners, because it gets them a VIP membership with like $36. It's priceless. It's worth
It's
tens of
priceless.
thousands of dollars, but it's
Exactly.
normally, I think, $97. They get it for $36. And they want to do the VIP thing because that's a lot where we save a lot. It's fun throughout the main interviews, but that's where we save a lot of the fun stuff because
Yeah.
a lot of people want to know things about their doctors that they wonder, but they're either embarrassed to ask, they don't have the time to ask, or maybe these doctors aren't going to tell them, but they're going to tell me because I'm going to ask them. And so we get to talk about some things. I get some rapid fire stuff. So we get to see what's important to them and their own personal health. You get to see their greatest stories, their greatest triumphs, their greatest challenges. And you get to hear who and what has inspired them. I think it really helps people pick a practitioner or a school of thought from being able to be subject to that bonus interviews, and they get a bunch of free things, and they get entered into raffles. We're giving away $10,000 worth of plus worth of care and things and devices and
Yeah.
that to use in their homes.
I'll say this, Doc. I know I'm so thankful you joined us because I think like the fun parts is like what people want to see when they come in. I think they want to know that their doc is human, and there's one thing that's missing in many aspects, and all that. Like you said, I need to get better at like finding all these great doctors you found on the Stacking Summit and bring them on and just talk with them. Because they always want a doc with good bedside manner, because it's the people with the good bedside manner are the ones that are fullest because they're like, at least they listen. Maybe I don't get like, that's why people come to me. I'm like, I hope I can get you better, but they're like, well, at least we can laugh. And that's one thing I do ask Doc. Like, I know when you interviewed me, I took that advice and I started thinking about it. So I told my producer, I was like, I'm going to ask some docs about this stuff. So okay, we're going to get to the end of this, but I'm going to say I want to ask you, like, what would be something somebody be surprised to learn about you? Like, like it can be anything, a hobby or something you like to I like to jump out of airplanes in my speedos. I don't know, something like that. But what would you do?
Why would they be surprised? I mean, I don't know. I'm 60 years old and I still play hockey every week, ice hockey, and I get out there with these guys less than half my age, and we throw it around, and I could usually score a goal most of the time too, which is
Whoa, I didn't
believe.
know that, Doc. Look
Yes.
at you. Okay.
That's my favorite sport. I love hockey. I think it's the greatest thing. I think it's probably the most challenging sport there is because everyone else gets to use their feet, but they're not on slippery ice with like blades and knowing that they can get hit at any moment. And it's shots are coming at 105 miles an hour at
Oh.
the same
Mm-mm.
time that so are bodies moving at skating at like 17 to 20 miles an hour into each other. So it's
Wow.
uh, traumatic and exciting at the same time.
What about? I mean, yeah, that'd be too much. Like the puck coming at me, you would see Motley screaming and cowering down. I'd have like 6 extra layers of padding, so nothing ever bothers me. What about? I'll be a bubble boy. What about? Okay,
Yeah.
favorite song, favorite song, music.
Wow. Favorite song. So many. That's a rough one. Wow. This is great because you surprised me with all these. I mean, man, I'd say Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen.
Yes, yes, I
Yeah.
knew. I'm serious. That's my, like I was like that's a guarantee. Yes. Okay, so Bohemian Rhapsody. All right. Last, and this is a good one though. These are what people want to know. If you had to go, like, you're not starving to death. You're not like world apocalypse. You say you have to go on a desert island or an island that has delicious margaritas and has your little cabin, but you had to pick a book. And what would be your book of choice?
Oh, book of choice. Well, I'm sure it's a popular one. I mean, I would say the Old Testament, the Bible. I would say that because I know there's such wisdom in there far and beyond that I've ever spent the time doing. I know other friends of mine and docs are scholars of the Bible, the whole thing, and I don't think I've given that enough of a read of books that you can do.
Same
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Same here. It's see, these are great. Like I remember I had a friend of mine tell me about like linen and cotton and how they're not supposed to be mixed, and then Old Testament scriptures from some of the Levitical law is like, yeah, you don't mix the frequencies of the fabrics, and you go, man, they knew about that a long time ago, and I love that, I remember that's the one line though. We're getting close, guys, but it's a Malcolm Muggeridge. He's an old reporter out of England. He says there's no new news. It's just old news happening to new people, and
I love
I'm like, yeah, that's right. So I want you guys remember Biostacking 36. I want you guys to go and be a part of this because whatever, I'm glad you guys jump in sometimes to my memberships and things like that. But I really want you to know that this offer is you need to go VIP and you're going to learn a lot. You're going to see a lot of fun people, people that I admire. And Doc, you're one of the people I admire so much. And I know we hadn't known each other so long, but just truly deep respect. Um, how can people find you? How can people get to your website, know about the Cohn Health Institute, which is like mega big down in Orange County?
Well, always the Cohn Health Institute. It's COHN is how my name is spelled. So the CohnHealthInstitute.com. The Biostacking Summit, you can get there just biostacking.com or biostacking summit.com. Gets you there. You can see more register. They can become a VIP and catch your interview as well. So there's that. And there we are, I don't know, we didn't talk about it, but I've spent the last 15 years formulating nutritional products for companies all around the globe, all around the
Oh,
world.
wow.
And for the first time, we are starting the long awaited Cohn Nutrition. So that is actually in all my spare time. Launching also by the end of this month. So by the time they see this, there should be our first product out. We're super excited about that. My last name COHN are the four elements of the universe on the periodic table by chance. So I had to do it. Carbon, oxygen,
That's awesome.
hydrogen, and nitrogen. And if you ever hear Greg Braden ever speak about those four letters and what they mean, there's this incredible biblical meaning to them when
Wow,
they're put
Braden.
together. That's gave me chills first time I heard it, and people that know me said it would be criminal if this did not come to be. So it is coming to be, my friend.
Oh, I'm just wrote that down, Doc. I'll take anything advice you give me, and I'm just saying that we'll have you on again every time you do a biostacking summit, Doc. I'll be your number one supporter. You come on out here, and guys, everybody out there, check out his Biostacking Summit. I mean it with all my heart, and we'll have him on here again to talk about all things biostacking. Everything is it's very great that we are in a world where we can have all ideas, different types of ideas come together and help. So everybody out there, we really love you all. Thanks for joining me and Dr. Howie right here on the Ancient Health Podcast. Remember, like and subscribe if you do like the information. If you have some ideas, send us that in our comment section. There's a little bell. If you guys want to click on that, you can click it. It'll remind you anytime a new podcast comes out. And hopefully that you guys get something that you hear from here and have those aha moments. All right. Until the next time, take it easy. Thank you, Dr. Howie.